Howdy everybody, what's up? My name is Sabina. Welcome to my channel. I'm the Left-Handed Alchemist. Today I am doing my very last video ever in Arizona. I'm doing my last video as an Arizona resident right now. Like, I move tomorrow. Like, we drive away with all of our stuff tomorrow. I should be like finishing the house and packing to leave, but it's this whole thing. I'm kind of on pause for about an hour and a half until I can meet this lady, and I figure no better time than now to sit down and film my last video and try and get this just done. I have a few topics that I want to talk about, but they require some planning, and I'm quite frankly a little scared to share my thoughts on these things. So I might get to that, I might not. I really want to talk about spiritual stuff and my spiritual beliefs, but I think over the last couple of years, I've gone through so many highs and lows with my relationship to spirituality and what I believe in. And, you know, I think at the heart of it all is that I'm just a human and I'm figuring this out one day at a time, and I'm not going to pretend like I know all the answers. And I think I have a hard time talking about this stuff because it's an evolution. It's currently in progress, and what I believe and who I am today is one thing, and who knows what kind of insight and information I will have access to, you know, in the future that will change my beliefs. And I feel like trying to pin down what I believe is like too rigid for what it is, and it is what it is. So maybe I'll just share what I believe now with the understanding that as time moves forward and as my mind and heart expand, and as more information is provided to me, I will probably change my beliefs to some degree. And I think that that's okay. I think it's okay not to be super rigid and like totally just blindly think that you know everything that the universe is holding, because we don't. So I had my spiritual awakening in about 2017. I think that's when it really started, but it was kind of a slow build. And then 2020 is when it really peaked. I think the pandemic really helped push a lot of us over the edge. Anybody who was kind of holding on by a thread, it was like, here you go, buddy. Off the edge for you. I was hanging out with a group of people where we were just like reading tarot cards and trying to channel beings and thinking about our spirit guides and contemplating the non-physical spaces of reality. And truthfully, it was so much fun. Like, it was a lot of fun, but it was something that I couldn't maintain, because if you know anything about the spirit world, it's not a very grounded place. It's like literally not like the physical realm. And as a physical being, I found it very dysregulating to be in those spaces all the time. So my relationship with spirituality has kind of gone like this. Sometimes it's like pretty mystical and weird and life feels really psychedelic. And then other times it's like hard reality. We're just in the physical space and we're focusing on nothing other than the physical space, and it's just like oscillates between. And I think each person and what their astrology chart is and personality and natural inclinations are going to experience this differently. In 2017, I went from being like hard atheist to thinking maybe there's something more, because I was feeling this connection to the spirit world in a way I'd never done before. I grew up kind of Catholic adjacent, Episcopalian. If you know, you know. It's basically Catholic light. My parents weren't really like religiously strict or extreme, like Christians, but not super evangelical. Moving into like my teen years, we lived in Lynchburg, Virginia, which is like the evangelical capital. You know, Jerry Falwell, if you know, you know. Whatever. I'm not a religious fundamentalist. I'll just say that. I'm not a Southern Baptist. I'm not a religious fundamentalist. So that kind of energy kind of rubs me the wrong way. I think for me, this idea of like one truth is really like, I'm really opposed to that. So when that is being shoved down your throat constantly and you're being told that if you're not a believer of Jesus, you're gonna burn for eternity, that like pisses me off. So I said, okay, if that's my only option, if that's the only truth, I don't wanna believe it, I'm fine. I'll just be an atheist. So I go to college, whatever, I graduate, whatever. And I think part of it started with my healing journey and realizing like, okay, I made a video a couple weeks ago about surviving narcissism, and I have some weird feelings and thoughts about that video, even though I put it up for the public to see. I went on a really long healing journey. Like, I survived narcissistic abuse, alcoholic abuse at the hands of a parent, and whatever. Like, whatever. Claiming my sovereignty looked a lot like making a vow with the ancestors, and I didn't know what that meant at the time. It was just like, I'm not going to do this to my descendants kind of thing. And then the ancestors stepped up and were like, all right, bet, we'll help you. That's where things really started to open up for me. I started to understand like, okay, maybe there's something beyond like this idea, this evangelical Christianity like approach to God. Let me explore this more. So I kind of go like the new age route, like The Secret, the law of attraction. A lot of it is like really trying to use the will of your mind to bend reality to like whatever you want it to be, which I think is pretty egocentric. It's pretty like not deconstructed Christian in a lot of ways, which is not necessarily a judgment. Like I might judge it myself, but it's not a value judgment on you if you're kind of in that place. I think at the heart of what I believe is that there's no one truth to any of this, that there's one creator, sure. Like, is it some kind of etheric being? Are we in a simulation? And this is all, we're all just like test subjects of this like mad scientists. Is the creator more like an artist who just like wanted to see what life would do on a rock floating around a ball of fire? Like, you know, the origin of all of this is still a mystery to me. I'm not going to pretend to know. I'm not going to be so arrogant to think that I can see like into the past to know what the creator of all things is like thinking about when creating the earth. All I know is like we're here now, and these are the things that we've found, and observable data looks like this with the evolutionary theory. Maybe that explains like the process of the creator. I don't know, but I'm not attached to one answer. Truthfully, the creation of the universe is none of my business. Like, I don't really find peace in trying to understand that kind of thing because there's just no way for me to know. Sorry about the birds. I have the window open for the cat. We have about an hour until it starts to get too hot to have the windows open, and I gotta clear it. We gotta get some fresh air in the house, or else it gets a little too sneezy, dusty, stinky in here. I don't know about you guys, but I love some fresh air in my house. So, bird sounds are supposed to be peaceful, so like, chill out. Anyway, this is a little bit all over the place, but I'm trying to like pin down these things that are like etheric and non-physical to explain. I really feel like this reality is a video game, and it's kind of like a choose your own adventure. Like, you get to believe whatever stories you want to believe about the world, and they like are reflected back at you. The like reality is a video game, and you get to choose whether you're an active or a passive participant. Is this like a storyline that's already been defined for you and you're just playing it out? Or is this more like a Sims where you like kind of get to choose your direction and choose your avatar and like choose which way you go? I don't know. I feel more empowered by looking at it and like from a Sims point of view. Maybe where there's some parts of the game that are, I don't have a choice. There's like an element of mystery about this reality that is quite frankly none of my business. It's my job to just like watch it play out and choose how I react to it. I believe that this creator being that we all are trying to understand a little bit deeper goes by many faces. And so there's really no one truth. It's kind of all true. Like, if you want to be a religious fundamentalist, like there's truth and validity in that. And if you want to be a staunch atheist, scientific materialist, like there's validity in that. And everything in between is real. And I don't think that it's fair to assume or put on people that they have to believe the same thing as you, because there's billions and billions and billions of people on this earth. And if we're all like representations of this creator being, or if we all have that within us, which I believe like this creator being is like these fragmented fractals that go off into all kinds of dimensions, like beyond anything we can even comprehend in our physical human bodies. Like, our brain only has the capacity to really perceive like a very, very, very limited portion of reality. So there's things that are existing beyond our senses and our understanding of the world, and it's simply not our business to understand those things because we were not given the tools to be able to understand those things. So starting wars and like killing people over this kind of stuff just seems kind of stupid and pointless to me, because we're all right and we're all wrong at the same time. And really, like, it's our job to find that connection and find that oneness that is rooted in our connection to this like divine being, like this creator that we're all fragments of. And if you can recognize that in the world around you, you start to understand and see the way it's all connected. Like, everything is connected, from the cinder blocks that make up the brick wall in my backyard, to the cat hair on my cat, to the cells in my body. It's all connected by this like invisible creative force that I don't understand and could spend the rest of my life trying to understand and will not be able to understand. It's just like one of those great mysteries of life. It's fun to try and make sense of this stuff, but at the end of the day, we're never gonna really know until we're dead. And even then, will we even know? Is it even our business to try and know? I don't think so. Which makes me think, what is my business? What is my business is really like how I perceive the world and the choices that I make with the hands that I've been given, the hands, and also like the metaphorical card hand that I've been given in life. And you can choose to be a victim to the hand you've been dealt, or you can choose to play the hand you've been dealt to create a better life. And it's the dance and the balance between both. When you play the game, you're playing to really just get to know yourself and to experience the world around you and to like fulfill those desires that are on your heart. And in the process of getting to know yourself, it's like peeling an onion. Something I've experienced, and I'm just gonna like share with you the download that I got last week because I felt like it really changed the way that I viewed myself and the world around me. This idea that we don't actually have to tear ourselves down into a million pieces to build ourselves back up. That we're actually like whole and complete, that there's God or the creator or something like made us, and we were put into the lives that we were born into, like the families that we were born into, not necessarily like for good or for evil. I think that with my understanding of the universe is like good and evil is like a human made construct, or maybe is like the dichotomy of the good and the bad is something that is like exclusive to this earth-based game that we're playing. Maybe duality is something that this physical reality really likes. It likes light and dark, light or dark. But the thing is, when you're either oring, like if it's black or white, and it has to be one or the other, it's like this very flat way of existing. It's like either light or dark. There's no place in between. But when you add the word and, or if you replace the word or with and, it becomes this third thing, light and dark, where you can exist in the light or you can exist in the dark. But there's also this middle ground between the light and the dark that's this like gray space that makes me think of it as like a triangle dimensionally, and then beyond that it turns into like a pyramid, and then more shapes, more things, more expansion in ways that I simply cannot imagine, or I can imagine them but I don't have the words to imagine them. The way that the divine speaks to me is very much through my third eye, and the way that I see the universe is like this movie that plays out in my head, that it's like maybe my life's work is to try and translate some of these images that I see in my head, because it makes perfect sense to me. I can see it so clearly. But how do you describe little dots moving and expanding and morphing and folding in on itself and existing in oneness to a greater audience and have them understand the way that you just like know, internally know? So once the image was like received, you know? So I'm gonna do my best. I mentioned that I started a healing journey that kind of started my spiritual awakening. I went through the whole like trying to find my spirit guides, talking to archangels, having healing experiences with archangels, but you can't hold these higher dimensional beings without a cost. And I think for a lot of us, the cost is spiritual psychosis. For me, that just never really seemed like the path. I'm not judging anybody whose path has happened that way. It just wasn't for me. I just tried to launch off into space, but none of it felt real. I officially grounded down last year when my grandma passed away. I just stopped caring about the spirit world. It was like I was in heavy grief, and I realized that, cool, I can contemplate the relationship that I have with the universe all day long, but at the end of the day, like, I'm gonna die. So what kind of life do I want to live? Like, my grandmother passing really had me contemplating my life, because I think she had a good life, but the way that she lived certain aspects of her life, I realized was this like generational thing, that if I just continued moving forward with my life unconsciously, I would probably end up like that, dying in a chair, kind of alone. Like, she was surrounded by family and what have you. Like, she was very much loved. And it's not like, I'm not trying to tear down this woman, my grandmother. When her husband passed away 20 years ago, she stopped living. And I saw that in myself and was like, oh, I have the inclination to never leave the house as well. Baby girl, I see you, because same. I don't want to do that. how do I like create a life that's like worth living? It looked a lot like finding hobbies. Like last year was the year of me finding hobbies. I started reading a ton. I started knitting a lot, doing different crafts that were like outside of the realm of my business and jewelry and engraving, which I did do that a lot as well. But my sole focus in life was no longer just about like making money and growing this business and this brand. It was like more about having fun and getting to know myself deeper, and still healing and still doing EMDR healing a lot last year, but a lot of it was more around like self-esteem, which comes through finding hobbies and like doing things and creating confidence and learning how to connect with the world around me. And a lot of these healing modalities and like self-help books are written from a perspective of pathologizing and trying to find the thing that's wrong with you so that you can fix it. With mental health, and especially like healing spaces, we really also have to work a lot with like what's working and try and have a more holistic approach to it. Because if you're healing generational trauma, you might be doing this for the rest of your life. And so if you're not allowing your life to begin until you're perfectly healed, you're never going to begin your life. And you're never going to do anything. It's just always going to be one day I'll do this, one day I'll do that, and then that never happens because you're really not guaranteed tomorrow. Let's be honest here, you guys. Like, we're all going to die. We're not guaranteed tomorrow. We're not guaranteed our next breath. It's just the reality of life. And when we look at death and we have a relationship with death and a deep respect and understanding that it's coming for you, the tension of death shows you the importance of life, and it shows you the importance of living life and not getting too caught up in the weeds. I noticed that my tendency when I notice that there's something that I don't like about myself is to go into this like punishing, shameful zone where I am just tearing myself down into little pieces, trying to figure out what's wrong with me, operating very much from like a pathological perspective of I need to find this thing that's wrong with me. If I find the root cause of the thing that's wrong with me, then I will be able to grow back stronger. I can get that thing out and grow back stronger. Thinking I'm gonna like reach down into the middle, pull the thing out, and it'll all be fine. Really what it looks like is shredding myself into pieces using shaming language and like, I don't know how else to say it other than shaming myself into tearing myself down into little pieces and thinking that I can grow from that. Sure, I can heal from that, but I'm always kind of like returning to the same place. And I realized that if I stop tearing myself up into pieces, I might actually be able to grow in a way that I see for myself and I desire. Oops, my earring just fell out. I've been hearing through the ether and through other people talking about this concept that like we're actually already whole and complete beings already. Like, you are born whole and you die whole, and it's your choices as well as programming from society and parents and upbringing, whatever, that kind of determines how connected you are to yourself. And it seems like this healing journey is really less about trying to break yourself down so you can build yourself up and more about uncovering the parts of you that were hidden the whole time. You're completely whole, an entirely whole being, but through disprogramming and society and what have you, parts of yourself get blocked or cast into the shadow. Carl Jung notion of the shadow self being a part of your subconscious mind and subconscious being that you're just not aware of. It's usually parts of ourselves that are rejected, that we push into the shadow because they're hard to look at, painful, things that are societally not okay to be and express, get pushed into the shadow. We think that it's just gone. If we're not actively participating in these parts of ourselves, then they're gone. But they're actually still there. It's part of your subconscious mind. And one thing about the shadow is that it will rule your life from the sidelines until you're willing to look at it. And when you look at it, it's oftentimes past parts of yourself that have been cast aside and rejected that still live with you, live within you, that just want to be loved and want to be held close and want to be nurtured and want to be supported because you're a whole complete being. And when you accept yourself as who you are, it gives yourself the space to like grow and feel the things that you need to feel so that you can keep growing and keep expanding. And until you accept those shadowy parts of yourself, you're never really going to be able to grow into the person that you see for yourself. It'll always be this idealized version of you that's just kind of out of reach. So this kind of leads me to this like diagram that I came up with that I'm going to draw for you in real time. and just edit down so that it's consumable. We're actually whole and complete beings. And when you're healing and you're going through your healing journey, it's really about uncovering different layers of this like onion. Like, let's do a callback to Shrek. Like, you are an onion and there's many layers to you. And some of those layers are kind of shadowy and dark and it's like hard to see through to the next one. And that's where your shadow comes in. These are the parts of you that just like you have not learned to accept. You've been rejecting, whatever, for whatever reason. Just, it's your shadow. And until you address these shadowy parts of yourself, you'll kind of always feel this disconnection, that oftentimes when there's a lot of disconnection and dysregulation within these layers of yourself, feel like being broken. And I say this as somebody who spent many, many years feeling broken. So it's not to say that if you feel broken now, you can't be fixed. Like you can be fixed. And it looks like accepting all parts of yourself and recognizing your wholeness. So when you feel broken, it feels like this. Like you are this discombobulated, disconnected being existing all around. And when you heal, these parts will somehow like change shape and go together so that you'll be like this. Let me tell you, you actually are already like this. And the disconnection exists more because these like layers of your onion are like really dysregulated. And so it feels really chaotic. It feels like you're disconnected from yourself. Like these layers feel pretty chaotic because they're all existing within you because you're a whole complete being, and the parts of you that feel disconnected are in a way disconnected from your awareness through nervous system dysregulation. How does nervous system dysregulation occur? It can occur in all kinds of different ways. Traumas. I have experienced complex trauma that had my nervous system so dysregulated that I just didn't really have a sense of self. I had no foundation for a sense of self. When I would imagine in my mind's eye my like eternal self, it was mist. I had no physical like gauge or guide to understand the kind of space I took up in reality. All I saw of myself was just like mist in the ether. And so I felt like this fragmented being because these layers of myself were so tightly wound and layered upon layered, and like not necessarily in the wrong order because my brain and my body did what it needed to do to survive. So it is correct. Like we are these very, very adaptable beings. So I think it's pretty incredible that you had the ability to survive something that was very not great. How amazing it is that you're here now watching this video, if you can relate to that experience. This dysregulation in our nervous systems is our self-rejection because of how we had to survive. We couldn't really accept those parts of ourselves that were not favored in our environments, you know? Our nervous systems no longer have to do the fight or flight for like big prey and bears in the woods, you know, but it still is that system. So when you have a stressor at work or a stressor in your environment, it feels like you're being attacked by a bear because it's the same systems that were put in place during a time when we did actually have to run from bears more regularly than we do now. In all of this, just be sure to be very kind to yourself because the world has moved so fast. Our bodies quite literally could not keep up. This evolutionary change that would be required for somebody to have like a nervous system that can survive this kind of corporatized, fast-paced world that we live in now is like thousands of years behind. So be kind to yourself. You have a monkey brain and it's doing its best to keep up with the times. You know? Let's talk about these layers of self. When you are feeling dysregulated, it's this like really chaotic thing, this mash of self. Like you exist in this bubble as oneness, but the dysregulation comes from these folds. So how do you iron out these folds? Let me preface all of this by saying that there's no such thing as perfect balance. You will never have a perfectly balanced life. It is a lie we have been sold, specifically as women, to have it all figured out, that the older you get, the more likely it is that you'll just have it all figured out and everything will be balanced and you'll have work-life balance and it'll just be perfect all the time. No, life is about ebb and flow. Like, let's just like create a foundation of that. You can create peace, you can create balance through understanding that you will not be able to maintain all aspects of yourself at all times. and that the balance looks like prioritizing what your life looks like and needs in the moment. And then beyond that, you can start to like think about your future. But really, to address the future, we have to address the present moment. If you're not meeting your needs now, you cannot meet your needs in the future. So we have to start here so that we can expand to the future. So you're in this dysregulated space and you want to find some balance. You want to find some like groundedness. You want to really feel like this whole complete being that you're being told that you are, even though you don't feel like it. This is where the pursuit of getting to know yourself and taking personal responsibility is really important. Part of the healing process is looking at the parts and the mistakes that you've made and atoning for them in the ways that are appropriate. Even if the atonement looks like feeling that feeling that's really uncomfortable and deciding moving forward that you're not going to do that again. That's great. Don't do it again. If it doesn't feel good, don't do it again. You don't have to keep doing it. Making the conscious decision to change your behavior. It's great, powerful, ripple effects. It starts to iron out some of these folds. I think that as we get to know ourselves, we get closer to our authentic self, we start to iron out the lines that feel like dysregulation in the body. So let me draw another thing. This like outer circle is like the body and like the etheric, energetic body as well. It's like this, it encapsulates our aura and these things outside of us that we can't quite see, but we maybe can feel. And then all of the internal parts too, connected to the soul. Because I really do believe like we all have souls and we're all kind of like little fragments of the creator. And that's what our soul is. And as we get to know ourselves in this life and understand our connection to all and the oneness, our layers start to look more like this. How do you access this? Just through like living and getting to know yourself deeper, pursuing those hobbies. I did a lot of my own nervous system regulation work through EMDR, finding a somatic healing modality, because a lot of this dysregulation actually lives like in your nerves, in your nervous system, and it is something that books are not going to heal. However, you can iron out some of these layers through learning. Some of it really is information based. It's really about experiencing the wholeness of life. Do you want to experience your wholeness? You have to experience the wholeness of life. I have actually gotten a lot of personal insight through fiction novels as well as self-help books. I find more value actually in fiction and through storytelling and being able to use story as a tool for manifestation. I think it's really powerful. So don't knock a fiction book. There's information from these spaces outside of our physical reality that comes at us in all kinds of different ways. Different TV shows even have like unlocked parts of myself that it's like, oh, aha, I have it. When we are doing this nervous system regulation work, it oftentimes feels like a returning to self. And I've wondered what that is. Is it this like deeper, more like metaphysical thing that I don't understand? But I think it's returning to these layers of our onion. Let me talk about like internal intuitive knowledge, because this is something that I really feel like I got the information for like last week. So you're this like layered onion, right? And you have all these different layers to yourself. Every past version of yourself, every day that you've lived is a past version of yourself that is like another layer of this onion. And so when we're doing this regulation work and trying to like feel and understand our wholeness, understanding our wholeness also looks like looking at our past and trying to honor those past versions of ourselves. Did you have a childhood where you were not allowed to be your authentic self? Now, as an adult, you get to hold space for that younger version of yourself. You can't go back in time and have the childhood of your dreams, but you can nurture that inner child that lives within you. Society talks about inner child a lot lately. It's really cool how a lot of this information has become so readily available to the masses. I love it. I think we're really like mass awakening and massively like healing the timeline as a result. I think it's a really lovely, amazing thing to be able to be a part of and to watch happen in the world around me. It's like, feels so cool to be alive during this time, even despite all the chaos of the world. It's like, the chaos is an indicator for the times changing. I think it's beautiful. I love it. I love being here. Your inner child is just one aspect of it too. So when you're feeling this dysregulation, maybe ask yourself, how old do I feel right now? I've had situations where I have this like weird unknown emotion come up and I can't figure out where it is, and I ask myself, how old do I feel? Like what age am I right now? And sometimes it'll be like little kid, like maybe we just need to go play, maybe we just need a little snack, maybe we just need a little nap, maybe we need to be told like it's okay to be loud. Whatever messaging you have that feels like it's in resistance to what you feel is authentic in your soul, it's like, give yourself what you needed as a child. It's now your job to reparent yourself and give your little child self what you needed. And it's frustrating because you didn't have the childhood that you wanted or maybe deserved, but when existing in those spaces for too long, we fall into victim narratives, and those are a way to get more folded into your nervous system. If you find yourself in a victim complex, shame is not going to work. Shame is just going to keep folding that fold. Finding self-compassion and being in the present moment and looking at the feet beneath you and what is working, like gratitude, will help pull you out of that really fast. And a willingness, like you have to be willing to leave a victim narrative and a victim complex to be able to actually leave it, because it's really easy to fall back into it. As somebody who falls back into it weekly, it's easy to fall into, and it's also something that kind of feels good. Like, I don't know about you guys, but I have found that sometimes it's like, I really want that rain cloud to be pouring on me, but all I have to do is just shoo it away and it'll go away. But sometimes I'm like inviting it in, and it's not a judgment on you, because like, I'm just admitting to the fact that I do it as well. But it's just going to keep creating folds in this onion and disconnection and dysregulation. When we have shadow aspects of ourselves, sometimes it'll look like this. Just like the image that I get in my mind. Like, if you have a different image for how this appears to you, tell me about it. I'd love to hear how you're seeing this stuff or feeling it. Like, this might be a shadow layer. This might be like a layer of your inner child that tells you like you need to be quiet at all times. And so you feel this desire within you to like yell and scream, but it feels like shame when you express that, or when you get to the point where you could express that, even if you're in like a isolated location where no one's gonna judge you. Like, it's this internal ick, but you have an intuition that it's actually not that big of a deal, or you have this intuition about something else that's maybe inside of this layer, because like maybe this layer is illuminated to you, where you have this understanding of something but you don't quite know how, and then something happens where you just say, fuck it, I'm gonna scream, and you like do the work and you kind of clear out that shadow. Then this layer becomes more accessible to you, and then like the understanding clicks of like, oh, this thing was released, the shadow was lifted, and now I understand these other parts of myself. And I also think that over time, this nervous system dysregulation can sort itself out. If you're out of the situation that caused the nervous system dysregulation, you're just gonna start healing naturally. You're gonna start regulating naturally. Your body desires homeostasis, and so it will find a level of stability. And that's what I found moving out of my home. I started to heal. I started to feel things I didn't understand. And so my body was doing the work of like feeling and healing naturally. Your body can and will do the same thing. Sometimes we get stuck though, and that's where somatic healing modalities can come in handy. I worked with an EMDR therapist. It was highly, highly effective for me. Some people don't like it. It's pretty intense. There's a lot of different ways to do it. Yoga is also a really strong practice that you can start to incorporate into your life that helps with somatic healing. It goes a lot slower, but especially if you're practicing in group settings with practitioners and teachers who are like trauma informed, you can do a lot of healing even just through doing yoga, through walking, through finding communities. There's other somatic healing modalities that I just don't know about, but I would highly recommend just like looking into it. It's something that's going to help you iron out your nervous system really fast. Or maybe not really fast. It's something that's going to help like iron out your nervous system, because you can only do so much healing in the mind space. A lot of it takes place in the body. And then something else is that you're going to undo some of this nervous system dysregulation just over time. Sometimes there is information that you need that you won't get for a long time, and understanding that you won't have until you live certain life experiences, and that's just part of life. I think as we grow up, we see the world differently. I'm noticing this in the 28th year of life, how I'm expecting myself to be somewhere like a 45, 50-year-old person who's like had kids and has experienced a lot. And I'm only 28 and I haven't experienced those things. And as I experience more, I have more understanding of the world. And I'm like looking at people who have lives that I want, and they're much older than me. And I'm comparing myself to them where I'm at now, as if I could hold the capacity to build something that grand at this age. And it's not to say that somebody who's 28 can't build something big. You definitely can. It's just not my story. I haven't had the space and capacity to hold the energy that I desire to call in. And it's something that is almost like a muscle that I'm building over time. And so if you find yourself in a similar situation, I think that the path through is self-compassion and understanding that we are just little beings working and living in this world and trying to get by and living in a society that is not built to like nurture this kind of thing. We do not live in like a super restorative society. It's pretty retributive. How do you say that? Where like we punish those that are bad. We pathologize ourselves and tear ourselves down and put identities and labels on ourselves that put us in boxes and separate us from ourselves and create more ridges in these, like create more of this and less of this. Like we live in a society that wants you to look like this, because if you look like this, you're very controllable. Ideas are planted into this very easily, and it's hard to unwind all of this to be able to see the world clearly. This takes a lot of work to undo, but it is work that is very much worth the effort, because once you do, you have a little bit more freedom with your life. I kind of feel like freedom is an illusion, but that's a conversation for another day. Now let's talk about balance in all of this. Balance is something that you can never achieve perfectly. I think the most perfect idea of a balanced aura is if I had my iPad and I could draw perfect ovals, but alas, I don't have it. This is like this idealized version of ourselves where we have each defined layer and it's like pretty smooth. Like all of these ovals are pretty uniform. I mean, you know, not perfect because I drew them with my own hands with a pencil. And they're all colored in perfectly where the color palette matches really nicely and there's no dark spots and it's all like you just know yourself completely. That's this like idealized perfect version of reality that is entirely unattainable because it's just not the rules. I just haven't been able to experience or see a single example of somebody who's been able to attain this and maintain it. I think balance looks more like this. Like the layers are like pretty smooth and everything is like pretty centered, but like some of the weight's over here, some of the weight's over here, some of the weight's over here. Some layers are a little thicker, some layers are a little thinner. And this is like the 2D representation of this. I feel like I see it in my mind's eye as this like amorphous goo. It's almost like slime, but the slime doesn't really touch. It's like many layers, like a jawbreaker of like color and of self, and some of them are dark and some of them kind of twist in on itself, and it's like constantly like gloop gloop gloop, because we're these like beings that are just constantly growing and morphing and changing. And the way that you find balance is to find what's important to you in this moment and to prioritize that, and like also taking care of yourself. By taking care of yourself, I mean like maintaining your hygiene and feeding yourself and getting a little movement in every day. It doesn't have to be like great, grand lifting weights and 10,000 steps every day. If that's what you desire for yourself, great. But I'm saying like, it doesn't have to be this like rigid thing. It's very much open to flow. It's very much, if you really want to find balance, ungrasping from rigidity is going to help you. It's going to help you like step into this like blob, because this blob is always this like one whole thing that exists and encapsulates all of you and all of your being, but it's constantly moving and morphing and changing shape and changing structure and fitting to the reality that is being presented in front of you. So if you want to change your reality, you need to change your beliefs and you need to change your stories that you're telling yourself. And then you also need to accept who you are and accept these layers. And I feel like I completely butchered this and I really want to delete it, but I'm just trying my best. And if you have any questions, let me know, because I feel like I talked for 45 minutes. I'm going to edit it down a lot actually, but I'm feeling a little confused and a little like, this is really hard to talk about because it's this concept that I see in my head. And when I was experiencing the download of this information, it was so like, oh, aha. and then I integrate it. And then when I integrate something and I don't speak about it, like as I'm having the download, the excitement and like the raw understanding kind of dissipates. And once I integrate it, it's just like an internal knowing. I can feel, I can know that this is true, but then I kind of lose the vocabulary behind it and I'm kind of on to the next thing. And so I'm taking the moment to step back and try and see this stuff a little more clearly, but it is kind of difficult because how do you communicate like a movie that you're seeing? Like, how do I communicate amorphous blob? I can feel it in my hand. It's kind of cold and like sticky, but not sticking to my skin. It's like slime, but if slime was like more solid. If like a medicine ball, like, you know, those soft medicine balls, but they're kind of hard, like they're kind of squishy, but they're like still kind of hard. Like imagine if that was more gooey and like could stretch a little. But it still has that like kind of thick outer coat that defines itself from the space around it. But it's like constantly morphing and like, not oozing, but like, I feel like if you cut it open, it would be like a burrata. It's like kind of gooey, you know? And that's like the physical 3-dimensional version of these like layers and these rings. And it's like constantly moving and constantly morphing and constantly adapting to its surroundings and its environment and growing and expanding and balancing itself out naturally. The less pressure that we put on ourselves to be these perfectly balanced beings, the more we can accept ourselves. And really the key to ironing out these layers of ourselves is through self-acceptance and understanding that we are whole and complete beings. And okay, I'm a whole complete being who's feeling a little frazzled and feeling a little fragmented. How can I support myself? That is stepping into more of a language and a framework of self-compassion, which is a place that we can grow from. It's a place that we can expand from. It's not stuck in this victim narrative. It's like very much forward thinking, growth mindset, totally like, in my opinion, how you move forward and how you begin to iron out the layers of the onion. I think that was word soup, but I'm gonna edit this down. And yeah, if you have any questions, let me know. I'd love to talk about this stuff more, but I am actually really scared of Christian fundamentalists, that they're gonna come and kill me and my whole family. So I'm not talked much about spiritual stuff on the internet because people really take their beliefs very personally when you tell them that you don't believe the same things that they do, and they try and make you feel bad about it. And I see that as they're victims to a system that is very oppressive, and it used to bring me white hot rage, and now I feel pity. Because if you can't see that the world is diverse and that God wants to express itself as lots of different things and wears a lot of different faces and has a lot of different cool hats, I am judging you a little bit because I'm only human and it is what it is. But at the same time, I just kind of feel bad for you because what a limited view of the world you've been convinced to believe. But if it works for you, it works for you, and that's quite frankly none of my business. So if you like this video, if you followed any of it, let me know. Did any of that make sense? I'm doubting it right now. I'm currently doubting myself, but I'm gonna post it anyway. If you want to support this channel, you can follow me on Instagram and purchase a piece of jewelry. I'm an artist at heart, a philosopher by DNA, I guess. I don't feel like I have a choice. I don't feel like I really have a choice, but I think about these things all day long and I'm like, well, someone should hear about it, so I might as well yap and put it on YouTube so someone can choose whether or not they want to see or listen to this kind of shit. Am I crazy? Maybe. I'm an artist, okay? I feel like I get a pass a little bit because like, I'm an artist and just so mysterious and think about these things. I don't know. I'm a jeweler by trade. I engrave as well. I'm about to release a collection of necklaces and pendants. It's a whole new line. I'm trying a new thing where I release a line of jewelry called the Symbols line. Each pendant is a different symbol. The first collection that I'm releasing is Arizona collection, Farewell Arizona, kind of inspired by my time living here in the Sonoran Desert. And the symbols that I feel like are really iconic, like desert symbols, like a saguaro cactus, and my most favorite plant ever, the century plant, the sun, and cowboys. And I'm really excited about it. I have so many ideas for how I want to expand this line, but I'm only one human and my entire studio is in boxes. And so it's just gonna be an evolution over time. Despite the fact that I am feeling a lot of urgency and I want it done right now and I want all the ideas expressed right now, alas, I'm only human. Once again, reminding myself and you, we're only human and we work in the constructs of physical time and space, and I'm moving. Hopefully tomorrow. So hopefully by the time I post this, I will be in my new place, and hopefully by the time you're seeing this, I'll be more settled in and I have a lot more video ideas. I'm thinking about separating channels and having Left-Handed Alchemy be more of my vlog kind of philosophy channel, and then doing like a Left-Handed Alchemy jewelry and engraving page where I post building videos and like build videos, because I have like maybe 4 build videos completely filmed, but I feel a little insecure about having philosophy and build videos in the same place. I feel like it's just 2 different kinds of content. So if you guys have any thoughts and opinions on that and what I should do, let me know. The birds are chirping, the babies are leaving the nest, and it's springtime. I hope that in this period of growth and increasing daylight and just the spring turning into summer, I hope that it treats you well and that you get time to enjoy it. And I hope that while the world burns, you allow yourself to have space to enjoy your life, because despite the fact that there's horrible, horrible things happening at the hands of people who are trying to keep a corrupt power structure alive, that does not negate the fact that we as Westerners were born into places of privilege. My country is currently not war-torn. I recognize the privilege of that, and I am trying to stay up to date and aware of what's going on in the world around me, and learning and deconstructing my beliefs about how the world should be and what I've been convinced the world should be. I feel like my role in all of this is a lot more like internal. If you feel the call to be external and loud and proud about it, more power to you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your voice. When it comes to addressing the atrocities of the world, it's okay to look at them, but it's also very important to recognize the privileges that you have in front of you and not to squander them. If you were given the opportunity and a platform to speak on, use it. If you have money, use it. If you have the ability to heal and grow and do the internal work, do it. If you have the space to relax and enjoy your life, do it. Because you suffering because other people in the world are suffering doesn't end their suffering. It just makes more suffering. It's okay to feel the grief of watching the world burn and having the rug pulled out from under you of the way the world is. It's totally valid to grieve that and to feel the full range of emotions that come with grief and the confusingness of it all. Totally valid, totally like, you're not in a wrong place for that. How can you be grateful for what you do have though? How can you look at the world in front of you and the world that's happening in your physical reality and the communities in your physical spaces, and how can you benefit them? Sure, sending money to people across the ocean is valid if that's what feels best for you, but also how can you help your communities? How can you help your tangible physical communities who are existing right in front of you? I think that there's a lot of power in that as well. If sending money overseas doesn't feel right, but you want to help your actual communities. And as we build stronger communities and build stronger community ties, we heal the timeline and we see a world that we want to live in, because I don't think a lot of us are very happy right now with the way the world is structured, and I don't think that you should be. I think that there's a lot of reconnection that we need to do, and myself included. I am very much actively contemplating and working on building community and feeling supported and connected to the world around me, which is a whole nother video and something that I'm still very much struggling with. So you're not alone. You're not alone. No, 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 you're not alone. Anyway, I've been yapping for a while, so follow me, subscribe, do the things, leave a comment. Okay, bye.